Please welcome to induct Richard Branciforte and Good Times Magazine. Please welcome Jackie the Joke Man Martling.
Hello, who's still awake? A round of applause for the gang. Come on, come on. And one more time for the band. I love that, guys. 1969, that's almost 50 years ago. There's probably hardly a person in this room that can remember a time when you could walk into a bar or a restaurant and not see a stack of Good Times magazines. After being banished in Michigan State for 7 years, I came back to Long Island and for no apparent reason tried to have a music career, and there was nothing more exciting than getting a mention in Good Times, let alone if you sneaked a gig in my father's place and actually got a review. And to this day, one of the highlights of my life was my first comedy album got reviewed in 1979 in Good Times Magazine. It was unbelievable. That's 40 years ago. There's been bumps and grinds, and we've all been banging our way along all these decades. And I'm so proud tonight. Here we have the founder, the editor, the master guy, the chief bottle washer, the guy that sells all the ads. I'm very proud to present to my old pal, Richard Branciforte, the induction into the Long Island Music Hall of Fame.
All right. As I've been sitting at my table for the past couple hours listening to all these great artists and great people from the music business here on Long Island, I kept saying to myself, what could I possibly do to say that could compete with the kind of talent that we were here tonight? And then I thought to myself, and I said, wait a minute. As Devo once said, are you not the publisher of the greatest metropolitan newspaper in the world? Fake news. So the cover of next week's Good Times magazine will be very simple. Thousands cheer Branciforte as he accepts his award. Billy Joel also was there. It's been quite a long trip. 1966, 1967, I was a college student at Queens College, and I put on Judy Collins in concert and The Lovin' Spoonful. I thought I was a big-time promoter. We sold out Colden Center. And then I saw the band that set the wave for the future, the Fugs. The Fugs at Tompkins Square Park, ripping the place apart. The Fugs on stage at Queens College, ripping Queens College apart. And I said, this looks kind of easy. This is what I want to be doing. I want to do concerts. So we went out, rented Town Hall, and turned down the Mamas and Papas. They were $1,500, and whoever heard of the Mamas and Papas in February 1966? But we outsmarted everybody. We booked Jose Feliciano. Before the Star Spangled Banner, before Light My Fire. The New York Times called it an artistic success, but a financial failure. And so the road was paved for the future of what I wanted to be doing. I took a job. I had 2 job offers. One was to work for AT&T. I was a graduate student at Columbia Business School, and I had gotten an offer for the amazing amount of $210. I also had a second job interview and job offer to work for a guitarist named Jimi Hendrix. His publicist's brother would happen to be in my marketing class, and he came to me one day, and he said, Rich, you like to write? You like music? My brother's interviewing for a publicist for Jimmy. Were you interested? I said, of course. So I went down for the interview, and they told me, okay, it's $95 a week, and you got a 3-week trial. And I said, well, what will I be doing? I'll be writing press releases, right? And he said, well, no, not exactly. Jimmy has a problem. I said, really? And what is that? He said, well, Jimmy plays clubs all over the United States, but he keeps getting stiffed. The club owners don't pay him. So we need somebody to collect the money at the end of the night, and that would be you. I thought about it for a little while, and I said, I don't know, $210, $95. I don't want to collect money from bar owners. So I turned down the job with Jimi Hendrix. Never suspecting that 49 years later, 12 newspapers in 7 states, I would spend my entire adult life picking up money from bar owners. Matter of fact, when I leave here tonight, I'm going to shoot over to KJ Farrell's because I got to pick up money before they close down. So it's been an interesting thing. I started Good Times to get free albums and free tickets to Woodstock. So thanks, Mike and Artie. If it wasn't for you guys, there probably would be no Good Times. Got the free tickets, and I said, well, this is great. I'm going to do this for a year or two. Again, never suspecting that 49 years later, that's what I would be doing. You saw the Eat a Peach interview that was named after the Good Times interview. It was one of Dwayne Allman's favorites. You saw the Bruce Springsteen where my managing editor came to me and said, hey, I got this guy I want to put on the cover of Good Times magazine. And I said, well, who is it, Glenn? And he says, well, you never heard of him, a guy named Bruce Springsteen. But if you do it, you and Crawdaddy will be the only 2 papers in the United States that have a Bruce Springsteen interview. So I looked at him and I said, Glenn, do you think this guy's really going to be big? He said, I guarantee it. So I said, we'll go with it. 2 things happened. Springsteen made the cover of Good Times, and 6 months later, Glenn quit Good Times magazine to become the tour publicist for Bruce Springsteen. He later went on to win a Grammy Award for Forrest Gump and became an executive at Epic Records. Some memories, highlights. Backstage at the Nassau Coliseum, Elton John's first concert. Elton John was on the cover of Good Times. Ron Delsener walked by, took a look at the cover, picked it up, turned around to this kid next to him and said, what is this rag? Oh, they're not charging for it. It figures because nobody would pay for this. Clive Davis, legendary president of Columbia and Arista, once told his publicity director, the great thing about Good Times magazine is that they'll cover artists that nobody else will touch with a 10-foot pole. And then there was the time Garth Brooks called up the Good Times office to thank us for running an interview with him on the cover. He said we were the only place in New York City that would cover country. That was his freshman album. All of this is tied into the main belief that we have at Good Times. The mission of Good Times has been simple, and for 49 years, it's been what we've been following. And it's real simple. There's an awful lot of great talent here on Long Island, and we've done everything we can to help promote it, to cover up-and-coming artists as well as the big names. And people say there's no music on Long Island. I don't know where they're looking. Every issue of Good Times has 450 listings of who's playing at the local clubs. So, and we don't even scratch the surface. A couple of shout-outs. I'd like to say thank you to my editor, Bob Smith, to my art director, Craig Cardone, who are here tonight. Without these guys, there would not be a Good Times coming out every 2 weeks. And then we've got the forgotten men. For the first 2 years of Good Times, because I couldn't afford anything better, I delivered all 25,000 papers in my Camaro. And tonight I have with me Barry Oliver and Paul Timmons, who have been delivering Good Times for a combined total of 32 years, and every 2 weeks deliver the paper to over 400 locations. Want to say thank you to Jim Sabella from Sabella Studios, who's in the audience. Jim has been advertising with me for 36 years. But that's not what makes him famous. What makes him famous is that he was able to keep up with me in Austin, Texas, when we hit 7 barbecue restaurants in one day at South by Southwest. I'd like to say thank you to my son, Rich. By day, he's an electrical engineer at IBM in Austin, Texas. By night, he's DJ Schwagar. More important, he's followed in the Branciforte tradition. He writes the Techno Beat column for Good Times because his knowledge of EDM is encyclopedic. And coincidentally, he gets free tickets to every major concert and festival in the United States. And many times I've been a little jealous wanting to grab those passes and go to one of the festivals in his place. And especially, I'd like to thank my biggest supporter, my wife, Sandy, who for 29 years has stood by my side, listening to the endless list of good news, hon. I just bought a paper in Wilmington, Delaware. Good news, just started a paper in Savannah, Georgia. Good news, bought a paper in Portland, Maine. And of course, the goodest news of all, good news, just bought Oil City Skate Park in Oceanside, New Jersey, for which I surely should have been committed. In closing, I'd just like to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you for sticking it out. And you don't realize the kind of work that these guys have put into this event. Being behind the scenes just slightly and seeing what they've done to put together this hugely successful event, I think everybody should just have a big round of applause for Jim and the entire Long Island Music Hall of Fame. I'd ask you all to, let's work together to promote Long Island music, whether it's original music, tribute music, cover music, because down deep, it's all a lot of good musicians playing a lot of good music. Once again, thank you for supporting us for 49 years. We've got a lot of big events in 50th anniversary, and we look forward to covering you for the next 50 years. Thank you.